This is a homage beat.
Grace and peace, grace and peace. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of I Saw the Lord. It's your boy Brandon. Uh, wow, it feels like it's been a long time since we've gotten together, but I hope you're doing well. Last week, me and Jermel were in concept number 22, Why Do You Die? And just going through the reasons why, just looking at it from just objectively from a atheistic and evolutionary worldview, where seeing death is kind of intrinsic to life. However, from a biblical worldview, we know that's not the case. You were never intended to die, but the reason that you die is because you break God's law. But Christ came to fulfill the law and pay the penalty for it, and dying in our stead, so that we don't have to die. Even though we die, we have assurance that we'll be resurrected. So that was a concept number 22 that we did last week. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check that out, please do. But we're plugging right along with concept number 23. What purpose do statues and monuments serve? We're gonna jump right in, but before we do that, how you doing this evening, bro?
I'm good, man.
Chilling?
I'm alright, man. Chilling, man. Week been alright.
Week been good?
Yeah, it's been good. How about yours?
I'm good. And I think we've said this before. We're pre-recording these, so it's like the Thursday before Christmas.
Yeah.
So we're real excited about that. I know you was out of school.
So I'm out, man. Like the kids, like when the bell rang, like they dancing.
I'm sure you was out of there before them, though, right?
My contract says so. But I'm dancing in the hallway with them. Like I was excited.
Hey, so you got off early today, and then you off till January 2nd.
January 2nd. So hopefully we can pray for a little snow on the first. So.
Get some extra days.
We get some extra days, but it's still cool. Either way, it'll be alright.
I hear you.
We'll be doing what we need to do.
Enjoy that time off. And Merry Christmas to those listening, even though once you hear this, it'll be after Christmas, but Merry Christmas anyway. But we're going to jump right into concept number 23, what purpose do statues and monuments serve? And I know I kind of mentioned this last time, where it's like when you're checking out the chapters in a book, and you just look at some, and I'm always curious just as a reader looking at them. Are you thinking, is it something that piques your interest, or are you just like, yo, this dude is crazy, I'm going to skip this? Because the way I wrote it is you can actually skip around in chapters. But when you first saw it, were you like, what is he talking about? Or did it pique your interest?
I mean, when I first read it, this is the chapter where I really did kind of realize, like, yo, I can pick around and just kind of go with the flow, just how I feel, like if I'm interested in something or if I'm not. But me personally, I'm a history dude. I like history, like going up to D.C., seeing the monuments. It made me actually look at that differently in the way I went the last time and looked at them. So as we dig in, we'll be able to talk about it. But
that was actually
it just made me think about, like, whoa, I'm up here like kind of in awe of these monuments, but why?
Yeah.
Because if I seen this dude standing here beside me, would I be doing the same thing? So it was just an interesting way to look at it.
Because that was actually the one, I guess the second question I was going to ask. Have you ever visited a statue or a monument? It sounds like you went to D.C.
Yeah, I seen the Abraham Lincoln one you talked about, the Martin Luther King one, Thomas Jefferson one, even though I have my own thoughts on that. Yeah, man, like I said, that's pretty much where I've seen them. And you could just see statues randomly. Like we see now, like, just randomly, like even think like I'm a college football fan, like Nick Saban has a statue at Alabama.
Okay.
And the dude is still living, walking around. So it's like, bro, like all these dudes, they got statues, like sports figures, and just the way we look at it and sometimes idolize them. So, I mean, it's just an interesting concept to look at that you really... Until you pick up a book like this, you really don't look at it and think about it that way. But it was really cool to see it and how you connected it biblically to what's going on now practically.
No, and I think that was real because, like I said, I'm not naive to think that everybody's going to care about every single chapter because some of them may be a little bit pique interest, others won't. It's kind of weird because they all have some kind of sentimental value to me in some sense. But I understand that someone might check out this chat and be like, I'll skip it, you know. But as I was reading it myself, I was like, yo, this one was really good. I know it doesn't pique that many people's interest, but once we start diving into it, and like you said, because we don't really think about certain things, I start out with this. I say, though it may seem like a random question, it actually reveals an incredible biblical truth. Statues and monuments are acknowledgments or an achievement or accomplishment of someone or something. And like I said, the second half of the book, I'm trying to use tangible things. So a statue and a monument is something that's tangible. Yeah. I talk about the Statue of Liberty. I'm from New York, so I remember seeing the Statue of Liberty. I'm pretty sure I actually been to the Statue of Liberty, but again, when you're a kid, you don't realize the significance of it. You're just like, okay, this is cool, but you don't realize, like what it's for. The Statue of Liberty, it was actually dedicated on October 28th, 1886 as a gift to the United States from the people of France. It was given to celebrate the 100-year anniversary of the signing of the United States Declaration of Independence. And like I said, I didn't really know all that before actually doing some research. And then I talked about, the Martin Luther King Memorial. So again, another monument that we actually can go and see. And like I said, we don't really give much thought about it, but, these are honoring people and things. And just going through it, just seeing how there's not just statues in the United States, but they're all over the place. Yeah. And they all kind of point to the same thing. Like they serve that same purpose, They are what? I say, though one may marvel at the detail and intricacies of a statue or monument, their purpose is to remind the observer of what they represent. And again, just doing my own research, I was searching scripture and seeing if there was anything that was akin to what we see here. Yeah. And it was actually, a statue that was mentioned in Daniel. Okay. It was a statue, and it talks about in Daniel chapter 3, it talks about a statue of King Nebuchadnezzar. He was the king of Babylon. Yeah, and this dude had a gold statue of himself, and that thing was like 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide.
That's crazy.
I can't imagine just all that gold, like how you have enough gold to construct something like that. Yeah. And so it says, anytime that the people would hear, it says, hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipe, every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Now, one sees this massive statue, but it represented King Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah. The statue bore the image of the king, so therefore people were to worship it as if the king was present. Now, I say, clearly this is a form of idolatry. I'm not trying to say that it wasn't, but it illustrates an important truth. It illustrates that what statues and monuments bring praise and thanks and glory to an individual, event, or concept. And it's not necessarily a bad thing for there's several statues and monuments that bring praise and thanks to great people and life-changing events. And I had this question for you. I said, if you were, what did I say? If you were to give someone or something, who would you say is worthy of a statue? Like it could be either an event or an actual person. Who do you deem that would be worthy of a statue or monument? Because you just brought up Nick Saban, but who would you deem, man, this person probably needs a statue or a monument of themselves? Or even if it could be anybody.
Just like an individual?
Any person, anything, whatever.
I don't know, man. I guess we would see just being an African American man, you would see probably significant figures in the civil rights movement that really stood in and faced brutality and injustice for just the things that came against them. Some of them have different things going on in museums and all that. I guess just in my own thinking, someone like that.
I guess a better question is, why do people normally get statues? Because we listed Nick Saban, and you say he's still alive, but why would someone give Nick Saban a statue? What's the reason of creating a statue of Nick Saban?
We idolizing what they did.
Exactly.
We're thinking on what they did, this person has done this great thing. Now let me marvel at it and let me try to be like them.
And that's what I was getting at, that usually people you give them a statue because they've accomplished something.
That's right.
And just thinking of people in our lives or people in society who have done great things, and usually we, especially coming from the world of sports, I think they just retired Kobe's jersey.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we can bet that Kobe's going to get a statue one of these days, especially he's been a lifelong Laker. He'll get a statue. But just all in society, we see someone who's accomplished something, they get a statue. But I say this is like a remarkable truth because as men, we give statues to other men. But what? There's somebody who's done the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's God. You know, he's the greatest example of a person. That's why I said person. So I was trying to set you up. I was trying to say, like, who we deem.
I knew you was going there, and I was kind of like, let me see, like, if I can flip it, like, let me not just go straight to it. Like, yeah, definitely God. Like,
exactly, and sure, I know it's like
that's facts. Like,
it's one of those Sunday school questions. Like every answer is Jesus.
Yeah, like everything. Like, oh, let me get that. Like,
so
yeah, Jesus. Yeah.
So we see, great people get statues because they've accomplished something great, but no one has accomplished more than what God has accomplished. Yeah. And so the logic that I'm going with, if God is the greatest person who's ever existed, would he not want to demonstrate this? Yeah. Would he not want to reveal his glory? And we have scripture that says what? The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. So we see what creation actually points to God's glory. But God doesn't stop there, because that's not even the greatest thing that he's created to display his glory. We go further. We look at the angels. And I don't know if I've ever brought this up, that the title of the podcast is called I Saw the Lord, and I'm getting it from Isaiah 6. And part of Isaiah 6, it talks about these heavenly beings called seraphim. It says, above him stood the seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 they covered their face, and with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 he flew, and called out to one another, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. So God has just created these beings that just sing his praise. But what? Even they don't encapsulate all of God's glory. In fact, there's only one thing that God has created, and he says, what? Of this creation, he says, let us make what? Man in our image and in our likeness. So what? Yeah. God has created man to be the pinnacle of his creation, to what? Display his glory. And I was saying it's ironic that most people who have some kind of understanding of the Bible know what? The 10 Commandments. And the first commandment is what? Against idolatry. And it's like just the wording that it used, because in Genesis 2:7 it says, let us make man in our image and our likeness. And then when we go to Exodus 2, when we talk about the first commandment, it says, you shall not make for yourself a carved what? Image or any likeness of anything under heaven or on earth or beneath it, or the wonder, beneath or in the water under earth. And then it goes on to say, you shall not bow down and worship or serve them. And I know this may sound like a really elementary question, but so many people, don't come from a biblical worldview from us. So why is like idolatry such a bad thing? Because most people probably don't even give it a second thought. But why from a biblical, if you're explaining it to someone who does not share our worldview, how do you explain to them why idolatry is such a bad thing?
I mean, it's because we put something like, and we decide like that we want to be like that. Mm-hmm. We're choosing and we're making something out that we aspire to, something that we feel is something greater that we want to attain. And as I just continue, like just you asking that question, it just makes me think more so on that imagery you were making, like how God made man in his image. And I was going to ask that question, like, and as you were like painting that picture of just like God being like knowing that God is the one who we should look at to, we should go to. Why did you paint that picture in that way? Were you trying to paint it that way? That it was like God created man in his image to be like the statue in that way, because you went from Nebuchadnezzar to...
No, exactly, and that was